Hello friends, it's Winfred again, and today we are going to learn how to make yeast donuts. Now these are also very easy to make at home for yourself and family. Reason why I'm saying they are easy is because they don't take too long and they are very tasty. So if you've been wondering how they are made, today you're in luck. All we are going to need is some yeast, some sugar, but let's start off right away. So we are going to need 3/4 of sugar, or a 1/3 cup of sugar, or actually let's use 3/3 of sugar, and then we use 3 cups of flour. We start off with mixing the dry ingredients first, and then bring in the wet ones later. Now it doesn't matter what cup you're using, as long as it's a cup and you stick to the measurements of cups. Now we said 3 cups, but for now I'll put 2 cups and reserve 1 cup for later. And then we are also going to need 1/2 cup of flour for kneading. But the other cup of flour we'll introduce later when we are in the middle of making our donuts. Now after putting 2 cups of flour, remember we said they will be 3, but we are going to start off with 2. Then we put our sugar, and we are going to use nutmeg, a teaspoon. Now also that is optional if you don't know where to find nutmeg. But if you have it, you need a teaspoon of nutmeg. This will also help with the flavor, because nutmeg smells really nice. And then we are going to need a tablespoon of yeast. You don't keep yourself from using too much. Let's stick to 1 tablespoon, because too much will also mean your donuts will rise too much, and the taste and smell will also change. So you use a tablespoon of yeast. We are going to need some teaspoons. Now before we add anything, these are our dry ingredients. Now in case you're not going to use salted butter, you need a pinch of salt, but in my case I'm going to use salted butter. Now you mix up your ingredients very well, so that when you're starting to knead, every corner has got a bit of everything, as in the sugar is mixed up, the nutmeg, and once you do that, you will smell the aromas will be strong, especially of the nutmeg. Now when you're done mixing, you create a hole in the middle. After you've created a hole in the middle, it is time to put in our wet ingredients. Now, before we do anything, we need to warm up our milk, because you need warm milk to activate the yeast. Now, when I say warm, I don't need hot, because hot will kill my yeast. I need warm to keep my yeast alive. Now we'll bring in our milk. Now if you're going to microwave it, it just needs to be for 1/2 minute, because more than that will kill your yeast. We are going to need 4 tablespoons, sorry, 1/3 of the cup, 3/4 of the cup that we are going to use. So it depends, what cup do you have to use? If your cup is big, stick to that, but if it is small, it will still do the same thing. Now 3/4 of a cup would mean it's the milk you're going to need. So you put it in the middle where the hole is, and then you beat up your egg. Remember we said 2 eggs. Too hot milk will kill your yeast. So it has to be, if it's put in the microwave for half a minute. If you're going to use a stove to heat up your milk, it should be the moment you touch it, it's just slightly warm. And then we put butter. If you have butter that is salted, don't add salt. But if you don't have salted butter or Prestige, depending on where you're at, this should be about 4 tablespoons. Your donuts will come out very well if you stick to the measurements. Now we've finished adding our wet ingredients. So we start mixing. You could use Prestige or Flora or butter, as long as they are a bit salted. Now this is a wet dough. But remember, we said we are going to bring in our flour and then add little by little, until we get a dough that can be kneaded. Now, many things that are made out of flour, you have to get your hands dirty at some point. So after I've kneaded it like that, it's a soft dough, so I'll have to add in some, remember the other 1 cup that I talked about? Now I'll bring in some more flour so that I can get it to a state of kneading. You put a little bit at a time to see how your dough will turn out. It needs to be that by the time you put it on the work surface to knead, it's not wet anymore, but it's more together. Remember, we are making donuts made out of yeast. Now you see it's starting to be more together. Then I add in the other cup as the other leftover from that 1 cup that we talked about. There were supposed to be 3 cups, but you put in 2 at the start, and then you bring in the other half later. Then you mix it. And this is just about the time when we have to use our hands, because then my spatula cannot do it very well. So I bring in my hands. Time to get a bit messy. Now, as you can see, it is really still soft and sticky. But by the time you put it on the work surface, you put flour, and avoid putting too much flour, because that will make your donuts lose the softness. They will be more like a fried bread, which is not what we are looking for now. So as long as it's not sticking on the hands, that should be good enough. Now we remove our dish and create a work area. Remember, we talked about the half a cup that we are going to use to knead. Now is the time to bring in half a cup for kneading. Now this is my work area. Time for me to use that half a cup dough or flour and then sprinkle around the area, but making sure it's not too much for my dough, because I don't want it to be tough. I want it to be soft and not sticky. As long as it's not sticky, that should be okay. But if it is sticky, then you're not going to be able to get that really soft donut that you always see in shops or markets or wherever it is you see your food. Now the secret is kneading for about 5 minutes. As long as it's not sticking on your hands, that should be good. The secret to a good donut is little flour as possible. If you use too much, your donut is likely to come out harder than the ones you normally buy. So you don't use too much when kneading. As long as it's not sticking on your hands, that should be okay. Now the work surface as well has got to be clean, so that you have something that is hygienic to serve. See how I'm kneading, and slowly by slowly it's getting off my hands. The whole thing is for it to stop sticking. The moment it stops sticking, then it is ready for the next step. As you can see, it's starting to stop sticking, and my dough is not too much. The flour that I'm using to stop the stickiness. Now, we said half a cup, so you need to be mindful not to use all of it, or at least more than it, if you have to really. Now my dough is there already, soft enough. This guarantees me a good and soft donut at the end of the day. Now because it stopped sticking on my hands, I'm going to prepare a bowl where I'm going to transfer this for proof for at least 1 hour. Now our dough is ready, but I'm going to need a clean bowl like this one to put my dough. So I oil it. You don't need a lot of oil, like maybe a tablespoon of oil, and then you make sure the oil goes all over the pan. You grease your bowl very well, because if you don't, chances are your dough will become hard and then it won't rise and give you that whole softness that you want. So you make sure the bowl is oiled very well, so that wherever the dough will touch is greased enough and is not going to become hard. Then you move your dough from the work surface to the bowl. See how it has not remained on the work area? Then you put your dough in and then cover. As long as everywhere is oiled properly, your dough should come out fine. Now I'm changing it so that even the top has not room for hardening later when proofing. So I get a black bag or whatever it is that you have in your house, or clean film, and then you cover up. Now in my case, I'm going to use a black bag. Many of you know black bags or buveras in Uganda. I'm going to use it because I don't have clean film. And then cover up, because it needs to be in a dark area. So I'll cover up my dough and proof it for about an hour. Now, in order to give it real good heat so that it can warm up and proof my donuts quickly, I'll cover it with a towel and then put it in my oven for now so that it proofs quickly. In 1 hour, we'll come back and check on it and then see what to do from there. Yes, my friends, now we have been waiting for our dough to rise for about an hour, and it's time to check up on it, see how it's doing. As you can see, it has risen. Now, don't be surprised if you're at home and yours has not. And it shouldn't be alarming that yours has not risen. It depends on the type of yeast that you're using at home. If the type of yeast you've used is not so active, you need to give it a little more time to prove. And once it's done that, you can always see, because it will raise and double or triple in size. See how soft it is? Now, at this stage, you avoid using a lot of flour. See how it's not sticking on me and yet I'm pressing? Now, this will guarantee me soft donuts. Now, let's start rolling. You give your dough some punches to remove the excess air that could be in the pockets of your dough. And when you do that, you're guaranteed your donuts won't be having air pockets in them, and they will be soft. See that I'm not using flour. I need to maintain that, because the more flour you use, when you use more flour, your donuts are tending towards being bread, and you want them to be soft and nice, just like donuts should be. Now, once you've given that the punch to remove the air pockets and also be able to absorb the oils that you had used to grease your bowl, you can take it out and put it on the work surface where you're going to be kneading it from. Now, at this point, you don't have to do much. You just have to get a rolling pin and roll out the dough to a desired shape. Now, some people use different things to get the circles that we need for our donuts, but you see what I'm going to use. But it doesn't matter, as long as at the end of the day you've got that round shape that you want for your donuts. As you have seen, I'm not using flour. I'm just rolling with a pin. And then I've got myself a cup that I'm going to use to do my desired shape. As you have seen, I'm using a cup to cut out the shape. Now, they may look thin. They don't have to be so thick, because after that, I'm going to proof them again for about 10 to 20 minutes. And then fry after that. This should give me a reasonable number of donuts. Now, you have seen their circle, but they don't have a hole. So I've got myself this one to give me that round bit that I need to put in the middle of my donuts. Now, it does not have to be the same size as mine, but as long as it's circle, it should do it for you the job. Then you put it in the middle, press down, and lift your dough. See how it has made a nice circle in my donut? I'll show you when I'm done. How my donuts will be circle. And you won't believe how soft they are already before I even fry. Now, this is guaranteeing me soft donuts. Now, as you can see, I've finished giving shape to my donuts. Now it's time to fry. You get a clean pan, some cooking oil. In my case, I'm going to use a whole liter of oil. This will help my donuts to submerge because I'm going to deep fry them. And then let's start frying now. Now you're going to need a rack like this one, or some place where you're going to put your finished donuts to drain. Now I've got a rack and a baking oven tray, and set my rack on there, and that's where I'm going to drain my donuts from. Now you also need a spatula, preferably one with holes. This will help to easily drain your donuts from the heat, from the oil. Now I've already poured my oil in the pan and the heat is on. Now you put your hand just above to see if there's any heat coming from there. You don't need your oil too hot. You need your oil at about 385 degrees to fry your donuts. Now, when it's too hot, your donuts will just burn and blacken. So you need it just to be enough heat for the first round. Because if it's too hot, they will just burn. Now my oil seems hot enough. I'll start putting my donuts. If you put when the heat is too much, the donuts will burn and just blacken before they're even ready inside. So better at early than late. Now I've put my first donut. You give them some space as you're putting so that they have enough room to breathe. Now the secret to good donuts is when you put them in the oil, don't mix them. Let them rise on their own. Once they come up, in about 3.5 minutes for each, you see like one of them is starting to float. They will start floating on top. Once they start floating, it means they've built enough air. They are light enough for you to eat. They are starting to rise off the bottom. And you don't flip them until they are all off the bottom and you've seen a nice golden brown color. Now right now all of them are just floating, but when I had just put them in, they were at the bottom. Now they are all off the bottom, but I'm giving them about 3 minutes and then I'll flip to one side because I want one side brown and the other side also brown, which is 3 minutes each. As you can see, our donuts have been on one side for 3 minutes. We flip them over and then give them a chance to also brown on the other side. But when you're frying them, in order for them to come out nice and airy and soft, you use yeast, because if you don't use yeast, they won't be as soft as these will be, and they won't be airy inside. These ones will come out without a trace of oil, simply because yeast for some reason does not absorb that much oil. Now these ones are ready to take out, and as you can see, they will have a nice brown color. I put a rack at the bottom of my donuts to ensure that my donuts drain properly, but normally yeast does not keep oil. But just in case there is any oil that may have come with my spatula, if I put a tray or plate under my my rack, all the oil that I don't need in my donuts will be out. The moment you take out the first round, you put the second round. But you space them when putting them inside so that they have room, like I said, to breathe and rise. You don't do anything to them until they rise up on top. Until they do that, you don't disturb them. This helps them become light inside if you don't disturb them in the first 3 minutes. The moment they've all come off the bottom, you flip to the next side, because that would mean the 3 minutes are up. And once you turn, you see the golden brown color already up. Now normally some people, after proofing it the first time, when they've finished shaping them like this, they proof their donuts again. I have not, but still my donuts will come out soft, airy, and good to eat. So in case you find yourself worried about how long donuts take, proof them fast, and then the next time you do it, after cutting, you just fry. They should be able to double in size, even just by frying, if your yeast was really good. Now, as you can see, these ones are also ready. I'll take them out. You will not believe how soft these are. They are very soft. And I know my family will go through them just like that. And I'm going to show you what we will do once we are done frying to our donuts. Now, because my donuts are ready, I'll get my donut, dip it in some icing sugar. For those of you who want yours with a bit of icing sugar, a little more sweetness. Then when I'm done, I'll put it on the plate. And I'll get another one. You will not believe how soft they look. They are. Now, others would fill their donuts up with jam, but I won't. I'll just do mine with icing sugar. And then I'll just show you how others will look like that do not have icing sugar. Now that's how my donuts would look like. The ones in the middle, I've sprinkled some powder on, some icing sugar. For those of you who have a sweet tooth and you want your donuts sweet, you can fill them up with jam or any other strawberries, whatever it is you want with your donuts. Or dip them in chocolate. Once they are hot, you dip them in chocolate and then let them rest. They should cool down and then be able to look really nice and taste nice for you and your family. Thank you for watching. Remember, subscription is free. Do not hesitate to subscribe if you're viewing for the first time, and to like, so that you may be able to receive these videos as and when they drop in. Thank you so much. Bye bye. See you next time.